You're listening to The KYLO Show, the podcast where we talk about how to keep your love on no matter what and why whole healthy families are going to save the world. And it starts right now.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to The KYLO Show. We are on round 2 of having the Ditmores with us. If you missed the first episode, you could listen to this one, but I would encourage you to go back and listen to that one too, because you won't want to miss it. I mean, it's grab popcorn. I don't really know what Skittles, or if you're on a diet, some carrots. I don't know, but it's like a movie. I mean, you guys talk, and it is so captivating. But it's a movie that's drenched in the Holy Spirit.
Yeah,
and that's how it feels. And you know, you are chess pieces in a game that he is absolutely winning, and he has strategy too.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
So
good.
it's so much fun.
You should say the name of the ministry just
Yes.
for fun.
So
of it. Yeah.
City of Refuge is the cityofrefugesac.com is their ministry website. But
if you listen to the first podcast, you'll see that there was a joke there that Danny just dropped, but it's all right.
Yeah, we took a while to say it last time. But City of Refuge, they're here in Sacramento, which is super fun because we get to see them and visit them. So I think this episode, I know that we've partnered with you guys, and you send us photos and voice memos that I have to not listen to in my car because I know I will be crying and I can't see while I drive.
Yeah.
And I love it. And then I play it for my children in bed when we do our devotionals, and then they ask me questions, and it's just, and you guys live this with your children, which I absolutely love. And you can maybe take half of mine, and we trade. I'll do the farm and you do the.
I love it.
My kids won't know what to do. It'll be great.
I love it.
Yes.
But, you know, I would love if you could share some stories just that you've shared with us about kind of the impact of, you know, I just personally remember walking in when we got the tour, and when we were leaving, a mom came up to me and asked if she could give me a hug. And I was like, yeah. And then you kind of expanded on, and she was telling me how she's doing the parenting course through Life Academy. And she says, I think I can be a good mom, which I'm trying not to just sob.
Yeah.
And you know, this woman that has so much hope again. And she's like, can I just give you a hug? I'm like, girl, we could go to coffee. I mean, we can do more than a hug. I'm like, oh my goodness. Yes, keep going. But you've got all this backstory to these beautiful people that didn't know how to have hope. And that's all that you do is infuse hope. Yeah. So if you could share some of those stories, I will hopefully have someone secretly hand me a tissue from the side as I probably cry.
You know, to catch your listeners up, if you didn't catch the first podcast, we have a housing program that serves 126 families, 127 families. We have moms and their kids living in 3 different houses that we run in the neighborhood, as well as a couple of motels. And we through our own personal family journey, we actually met your mom years ago, gave us access for us to do Keeping Your Love On with our kids. And so we actually started watching the videos, and we went, oh, we need to share these with the moms in our, because it was life-giving to us. And so you guys did, you let us share it. And we have watched countless moms and dads go through the programs, go through the classes, and the parenting, the connection, you know, you hear them in the hall, don't drop the rope, you know, talking about connection and the power that's in that, and our powerful choices, and so much of that it's just been remarkable. But Samaya, I mean, I think you know Samaya's story so much better than I do, but she's a young mom in our community. She's got a couple of children that still live with her, some grown kids, but she's been transformed. But go ahead.
Yeah. You know, our tagline at City of Refuge is return dignity, restore lives, rebuild community. And it's this whole belief that they are the rebuilders. And there's
Isaiah 62.
Yes, Isaiah 61. And
She's like,
no,
that one too.
That's a great one too.
58, 61, I mean, a lot of them.
But the invitation to return. One of my favorite scenes is the scene from Hook, if you've ever seen it, where Peter Pan is looking at himself in the water and he doesn't know he's Peter. He forgot who he was. And he
Lion
cannot
King too.
see.
Yeah.
Right?
And
You can't. He has
Totally.
no reflection, and the Lost Boys are throwing their food, and it's bright and colorful, and he can no longer see his original design,
Yeah.
and he suddenly gets a glimpse, and Tink is over the shoulder going crazy, right? And she says, "There you are, there you are," and the longer the reflection stays, he finally remembers who he is. And when I think about the invitation to return, it's the moment that people get to see the reflection, the design of who God made them to
Absolutely.
be. And when I think about, someone like Samaya, who lost her mother at 11 years old to overdose, who ended up being trafficked. We did not know this until she had been with us for over a year. She had been trafficked in Reno in a brothel as a teenager. The drugs and the things that you do to cope with the pain and the trauma and witnessing death and sexual abuse as a child. When you look at the majority of trafficking victims, when you look at the context of the United States, most of them were sexually abused as children. Their homelessness is a part of not only their narrative but their grandmother's narrative. When we look at complex trauma, the generational trauma of there's zero familiar. And yet the beautiful thing about God and heaven is that his reflection is always in us. So it's amazing to see that when people have no familiar to look back to, and you're like, where did that light even come from? That in his creation there's an awakening to see who he made us to be. And Samaya, by the time she was 20 years old, she had 4 children. Children who she then had been in her ongoing addiction and the onset of mental health. And Danny, you would know this well, like so much of mental health today that pharma is medicating is all attached to attachment disorders. And so, you have diagnosis of borderline personality disorder, and we try to medicate the depression, the anxiety part, the calm you down part, let's calm you, but we don't look at family. We don't look at the roots of attachments.
Being born again.
Yes.
Oh, unique concept.
Being born again.
Yes.
And forming trust.
And forming trust.
Yeah.
And the concept of belonging, the very story of the gospel that Jesus came to bring us home into family. And she has 3 children, and her youngest was actually born while in our housing program.
Oh, wow.
And when you look at a young lady, that her familial connections have really been that of one who has been orphaned and now is learning to mother all over again. And that beautiful space of restoration and some that just need forever home. You know?
Yeah. I know that she, you shared with me that she does the Loving Your Kids on Purpose course or Parenting 101. We changed the name of it. And you also shared with me a young single dad that's doing it and sent a clip of him playing with his kids. And just being present, which I don't want to talk about it because I'll cry.
Jed lives in one of our family housing places through our partnership with the city of Sacramento, and he last October was released from prison. He's actually now been out for a year now, but he had come to our housing facility 6 months being out of prison, and had just his mother of his children, she was in the life in prostitution and drug addiction, and so she gave him custody of his kids, and he's sitting there. And
he had been living in a tent with those children. And it's very interesting when you look at some of the tent cities and those spaces. Jed was living in one of those tents covered with a tarp with babies.
Yeah, like under 2.
Oof.
And his kid turned 2 while he was there at the motel, and we got to celebrate this child's 2nd birthday. and so to give you a little context, and he's a validated norteño, tattoos, all braid, all going down the back. And a very kind young man.
So
But, you
precious.
could see, if you look at him, you could see the life that he's lived.
Yeah.
And, just had no concept of what it looked like. No father in his life. His dad was in a criminal lifestyle. And when you get to know his story, you see why he repeated those things. And he, actually lost, he fathered another child that wasn't biologically his, that was actually brutally murdered by a caretaker while
5
he
years old
while
last
he was
year.
in prison. And so dealing with that loss of this child that he loved and took as his own, and just so much loss. We went through the Parenting 101 course and would show up. He would walk to City of Refuge to get on computer. He didn't have a computer himself. And even though he had already gone through the parenting classes, he's like, I want to go do it again. Can I go get on the computer? I want to refresh.
Me too.
And
He'd
watch
show
I have
up.
to keep doing it.
show
again.
up.
light come on and
Yeah.
go, I've never known this, and watched him just become a dad, enjoy spaces, and he's still at the motel right now. But you show up and there's this bebop in his step, and he'll show up, give you hugs and dap, and hey, what's up, and and I'm taking my kids, we're gonna go get some ice cream, and I'm just like, who are you, Jed? It's been amazing to just watch this transformation happen in this young man. It's nothing but God.
I remember, a part of the homicide that was attached to his narrative is that he was raising 2 other children who biologically were half to the sibling that had been murdered. It was on the news, happened in South Sacramento this last year. And so what happened was CPS actually came to the motel to check on the other siblings. And they discovered that there was an old 5-year restraining order that had him listed on it and his child. And so this is such a beautiful story of how kingdom steps in. So I knew the social worker. I think even when we talk about our community is from politicians to social workers to service providers to those, they are all our community and mission. So I happened to know the social worker, and she said, Rachelle, we have to remove Josiah from Jed. And I said, listen, I said, we're already going through so much grief. Can we? He's doing this. She goes, we have to. And I said, would you allow us to find a foster family while we work with him on getting this order? And the social worker said, we will help him with the order. It's probably going to be a couple months. I got on the phone. I said, hey, guys, I need a favor. The family said yes. Then I called the social worker back. I said, hey,
I need a favor.
Can
we move this along?
I said, can you not remove him? Will you allow me to take him? It'll be so less traumatic on Jed. And so we got to enter into that space. Jed felt grounded. He felt safe. Josiah ended up leaving, and when he left, Jed's just crying, and I've got my case manager, Jack, with him, and Mike Horn, who's doing therapy with us with him. And I said, Jed, do you know what your name means? And you see this kid with tattoos from his head all the way down his neck. He said, no. I said, beloved. Your name means beloved. I said, do you know how precious you are, a loved son? You're so precious to God. And then I started, we do that stuff, and then I'm a kind of a straight shooter, and it can be a little hard nosed. I'm like, next day, now it's time to get into your business. I look in your Instagram. I'm like, what is this? And I said, if this is who you want us to say you are, you got to change your narrative. And we got to start working on this stuff. Take it down, put
Pay
it away,
attention.
change your name. And
Mother Pippi came out.
I ended up looking on his
my eye.
Instagram, and he changed his handle from a gang-affiliated name to Believe in Me. And, when I think about family, when I think about healthy parents, when I think about God's beautiful design, it's that we believe in this next generation to share with them the spirit of inheritance, the spirit of adoption that Jesus carried. And what we give them is belief again. And we invite them into, like City of Refuge Church says, into belonging. And Jed has just continued to show up. And I'm super excited because we haven't even got to share with you about the next in this restorative housing complex and some of that light. But when I think about the next, it's that Jed and his children are worthy of Jesus' death and resurrection, and they are worthy of gardens and not dumpsters to continue to grow and heal in, with family and nurture and belonging and connection at the heart of that. And that is not the job of government.
Exactly.
Government can come and add and supplement and create streams, but that is the opportunity for kingdom to build something, and for the Church of Jesus Christ to carry the Father's heart of adoption for our nation.
Yeah, and the government can help create structure for life to flow.
Absolutely.
But the government is not the life.
No.
No.
Yeah. The government cannot be the life.
Yeah.
The school system cannot be the life.
No.
We are the life.
Yeah.
Right.
That structure is
Yeah.
protecting, promoting, hosting, but
Yeah.
the government is not going to provide the life.
Jesus didn't invite people to his organization, to his
Government.
And
Well,
in
he did.
fact-
He actually did.
Well,
in a
he
way.
did,
Yeah.
but the government they thought he was going to create was very, very different.
He didn't
and
come
he
as
kept
a king.
reminding,
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, he died as a king.
And we watch Jesus's life, and he, obviously the greatest example of how to live, but the way he flowed was in relationship, was in family, wasn't. He didn't say, "Hey, you're come join my organization." He said, "Hey, come follow me. Come eat what I eat. Come do what I do. Come watch me work."
And belonging is just another word for attachment.
Yeah.
And another word for attachment is connection.
Yes.
And that whole thing of
Powerful.
building, promoting, strengthening connection with people who have been so traumatized
Yes.
by their connections
Yes.
that they've vowed to never make another one.
Right.
The safest place I could ever be is disconnected from everything.
Yep.
Including
That
yourself.
trauma is exactly what
Yeah.
you guys are facing.
We say to our one of our values in our housing program, and with our team, is we protect connection, preserve relationship, empower choice. We do not rescue, we do not save. We empower the choices
love
of
it.
people.
Yeah.
It allows us to release them.
Powerful
it allows
people.
us to not powerful people.
They're doing
Not
the
to be
KYLO 5
saviors.
first.
KYLO
That's
5.
what's happening here.
Our opportunity is connection, and if you take it too far and try to control, we ruin relationships when we want more than what people are ready for, and then we empower their choice. And so when they choose these things, we celebrate them. We merely make room for that to happen.
Yep. And if you don't stay powerful and you don't manage yourself in all your efforts to transform somebody, your quality of life goes away. Your peace goes away.
Right.
For sure.
You're now jacked up with fear and anxiety because of this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
And so, watching you guys stand in this level of demand, and that's what it is. I mean, you guys stand in the demand,
Yeah.
and you manage yourselves.
Yeah.
You then get to stay connected to what the Father's doing instead of get caught up in what needs to be done.
The urgent, the now, the chaos that
And
is.
we love one another a
and
lot.
that's great.
What a good
We have
idea.
great marriage.
It is.
What a good
Like
idea.
having a healthy marriage in the middle of this and family. It's like these foundations, if we don't carry them, we can't bring them.
Yeah.
Totally.
And this is like whole healthy families, boom, are going to save the world.
Right.
Boom.
Bam.
That's it.
Yeah. what a concept. No, it really is though.
Or at least this part of the world.
Yeah.
It had to happen here first, and that so much of what we do today has been birthed out of our own experience of walking through healing with God. And I remember being that kid, that young 20-something-year-old kid that was trying to earn God's approval by being on a stage and performing and I just anything I could do to whip up a feeling of God likes me more or God's okay with me and I kind of like bring that into what we do and just know that there's thousands of people living in that same place of, would you just like me? Would you can I do whatever I need
Do
to
I
do
belong?
to get you to accept me? And when you flip the table over and you realize that God already did that for us.
Yeah. You're not
And we can live as loved and accepted people and create that space. It's transforming what
it's
happens.
the trap of being or getting sucked into living as a human doing.
Right.
You know, like I'm only as valuable as what I give to you.
Yeah.
You know,
sure.
that the especially a poverty culture is so it's so entrenched in being pleasing,
Right.
you know, entertaining,
Yep.
you know, that I'm really only as valuable as either I can make you feel
Yep. Yep.
or I can scare you.
Yes.
Yep.
You know, and so it's all coming out of my own anxiety. Like I'm performing for acceptance, or I'm commanding respect.
And then relationships are just birthed out of transactions, and it just what I can get from you and what I can give you, and you know we call that a relationship.
And so learning to be is some of the first parts of belonging.
yeah,
You
So
know,
good.
like I have to find out who I am, whose I am, and why I'm here.
Yep.
And so thank you so much for that.
I know.
Yeah, it's good.
I mean, one of the questions I have for you guys is, you know, the question of what's next. You know, what are you building? What are you aiming towards? Because you guys are dreamers.
I'm so excited.
We've been, you know, I've had conversations with you and different things, but you know, when you're connected to the vine, you get to produce fruit.
Yeah.
And you know, I was reading that this morning in John 15, and I just think you guys are so connected to the vine. And so you've gone through pruning in different seasons, and I just feel like there's something next. And what is it? So that, you know, we can be directing our prayers, directing our resources, directing our funds. I mean, how can we continue to be champions for the City of Refuge? What is next?
Yeah, go for it.
So,
And I'll jump in.
so my husband also is a lover of history, and so likes to see like what happened in spaces. And 3 years ago, 7 years ago, when we moved into our community center and building on Martin Luther King Boulevard, there was a field next door, and Loren ended up looking up the history of the field. It had been vacant. And on this field, between the span of 10 years, there was numerous young ladies that had gone missing from our community, anywhere from 14 years old to 27. We have a documented, the first one was 10 years prior, and they ended up finding 9 girls that were all seen at the time as addicts and prostitutes, and they had been killed by one man.
This is back in the 80s.
Back in the 80s, in 1985. And we have 3 people on our staff today. One is his sister was killed. And then 2 of our girls that are on our team, their mother was actually kidnapped by him 10 years prior and escaped.
Oh, wow.
And you can look him up, Morris Solomon, homicidal handyman of Oak Park. He's actually on death row in San Quentin. Wow. And so the last thing that existed on our field was the house of the very last victim. That was it. She was killed in that house. The detectives found her, led to 6 other bodies about 2 blocks from our house.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
The house was demolished. We hear stories about the smell of death that was in the neighborhood, and nothing has existed since. So Loren actually heard the history of this land, and he says, we got to buy this land.
Naturally.
And
Of course, that would
Especially
be the
what one
first, yeah,
does.
yeah.
we have to buy this land.
You know.
Like, let's take it back. Let's watch Kingdom repurpose it.
Wow.
Like, we love Magnolia.
Can we believe that life can come from death?
Yeah.
Can we believe
Can
that?
we flip the narrative and not let that
so
be
good.
the last thing that happened?
Yes.
It can't stay a parking lot.
No.
Wow.
Joanna Gaines, if you are listening, I'm coming
my
for
God.
you. I have a story. And we've watched God do that. Like our family shelters, our former trap houses. Like, let's
Yeah.
just take it back and make room and create an invitation. And so the story goes on. A couple of years later, we ended up buying the field, put our mark on it, put heaven's mark on it, not our mark. We put heaven's mark on it. We hope to be a very small part of this story. There's so many others that will be honored and be a part of it. But I had this woman tell me, she says, that was our church when we were kids. I said, what are you talking about? It was just a house. She said, girl, us little black kids, we didn't have a place for a church. She goes, we had choir in the basement. She goes, so many kids learned about Jesus in that living room. And I don't know what happened to the pastor, if he left or he died or what happened. The house was vacant. Death came in, and then it was demolished. And when she told that story, I just heard Holy Spirit say, and I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. And I suddenly saw something going up. And it was the church that Jesus Christ is building and resurrecting. We will preach the gospel. We will live out this message. We will believe that prayer is our power, but it is going to be a church that looks like Jesus, that says, sons and daughters, come home. Mm-hmm. So we have actually had designs. I love this because as a builder, Loren and I are so different in our spaces and how we operate in our lanes. And, Loren is foundations and building those things. And he really was the one that saw this. And actually, we had architectural designs. We have the opportunity to buy the other half of the block. And so it's pretty extensive. I started with children. That was my heart. That is my love. Mm-hmm. Why we came into housing was because those little girls grew up and they ended up coming back. Yeah. We don't want sons and daughters to come back running through our doors. We believe that God wants to create a safe world for children. And what children want more than anything is family. Mm-hmm. They want their parents. Yep. What often gives those parents the courage to take the next step is because they don't. If you listen to every fentanyl addict, meth addict, formerly incarcerated dream that has a child, you say, what do you want there? What do you want for their child? What do you hear? I want them to have a different life than I have had. Yep. And what has been lost is that connection, that nurture, the attachment that they never had. But there is this opportunity once again for them to be like Peter Pan, to see an original reflection. Mm-hmm. And so I actually just got back from Washington, D.C. I have been in this awakening since Tuesday. My husband actually at a strategic meeting said, what if we turn this whole thing upside down? What if we see children at the front door and not the back door? And we build—
Not just a result of what we do, but that's actually the first goal.
Forefront.
And build our programs around that, build what we do around children.
Yes.
And the byproduct is that mom and dad get healthy too.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now you're sending whole healthy families out to save the world.
Yes. And so it's like, I'm thinking, we look at our designs, and I honestly, because I'm a seer and I looked at our capital campaign, I'm not going to send any of you to it yet because it's ugly and it looks like
we've got a new lens on it.
It looks stoic, and when I look at that, I think Ghirardelli Square. I think Big Mama's Sweet Shop in the bottom with ice cream and bouncy balls and wonder. It's restoring wonder, restoring color, rebuilding this thing that, like, even aesthetically, it feels like Switzerland, the magic, the wonder of heaven coming to earth with children at the forefront. And the reason it's not a housing first model is the reason why we drug test is that doesn't create a safe world. The reason why we want to create a safe world for children and put children at the forefront of our why, with families and adults that have spent their whole life trying to recover from childhood. Mm-hmm. I had this dream a few weeks ago, and I kept on saying, "Where are the children? Where are the children?" At a vigil a few years ago, about 10 years ago, I told Loren on our way back, I was kind of shaking. I felt like I saw the face of hell. Mm-hmm. And I said, we've seen this human trafficking era, but the next era, there's going to be a spirit of death. And I saw almost like child soldiers and no more children because so much nurture had been lost. Yeah. And I'm sitting at the national event with the Center for Missing and Exploited Children at this gala, and one of my dear friends actually was the lead prosecutor that worked on a 5-year project that shut down the largest human trafficking ring in the world, Backpage, that was making billions off of children being exploited. And so my friend invited me to go with her and sit at her table, and this light bulb came on, and God said, "You're going after missing children. We're going to find missing children, missing children, that these adults that became offenders because, like, they never got a chance to be a child. Yeah. And now they're moms and now they're dads, but God is going to use the children to remind them, to bring them home and to restore wonder again." Like, imagine if people didn't just survive. Imagine if we got past that. Imagine if we got back making it. I told our chief of police when he called me, he said, "What do we do about this homicide rate?" I said, "Get out of the batting cage. We got to get out. The balls are coming 100 miles an hour. We got to get out and say, what happened. And I believe that heaven's coming to earth. I think that
Yes.
we are going to see a move of God
Yeah.
like we have never seen before. And how exciting to be in these times, in this day. It's not going to be black and white. Color is returning and wonder is going to be restored.
Come on.
So with that, we see a holistic life transformation, child-centered, where families live, where their lives are rebuilt. We have plans for 60 units for 60 families and individuals to be able to live on the campus there. All of their classes happen there. All of their Keeping Their Love On and Parenting 101.
all
and
that.
LOP will be housed there.
All of the stuff there.
Fully
But
infused.
jobs and life and everything be able to happen. And when she says the church, I just think we have the opportunity to really reframe who and what the church is. We're not abolishing the worship services and all of that, but we get to see Jesus put on display 7 days a week, not just on Sundays in the context of our neighborhood. And we get to see lives completely change there. And so we see it in a micro level. We really believe that this will be a one-stop shop for life transformation where it gets to happen 365 days a year.
Yeah, and I love it's family restoration.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
not family
Definitely.
intervention.
No.
You know,
Yeah.
you start there. Obviously,
Yes.
you have a front door,
Yes.
but
Absolutely.
this is a family university,
Yes.
if you
Yes.
will.
That's
You
beautiful.
are you are moving people through
Yes.
to
Yeah.
find because of hope.
Yeah.
You know, and not everybody wants to go.
No.
Not everybody wants to go. That's
No.
the hardest thing to deal with.
Not everybody's
is
ready.
Not everybody wants
Yeah.
Yeah.
the wonder.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be taught that kind of hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have the courage to believe that for your future is supernatural.
Yep.
That's not available when they walk in the door.
No.
They maybe have a hope for survival.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe a magnificent self-preservation.
Yeah.
But what they don't have a hope for is legacy.
Right.
Which is, you know, that's how you're moving people. You are moving people from going to, I have to escape my childhood.
Yeah.
I don't even want to be a child. Actually, children get eaten.
Right.
You know, that the worst thing in the world you could be, and to accept that you are a child of a loving father. And then be willing to grow into being a loving mother and father. That is a transformation.
That only happens when you believe that it's possible for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's our unique job is that when young women came into our housing program year after year after year, we would hear this all the time. This is not what I expected. I'm expecting this drab shelter, and I'm expecting it to, you know, there's a prison without bars.
Yeah.
You know,
Where's the shame?
the-
I don't know.
all
Where'd
the
all the
law.
shame go?
Yeah.
You know, where's the
Yeah.
punishment?
Right.
and they get here,
Exactly.
and it's a home.
Yeah.
And they get to rethink what home is and does and feels like, and then they watch the light bulb come on in their kids. We've had kids show up that the parent thought that they were mute, that they couldn't talk, or that they were autistic, that they hadn't spoken. The trauma that these kids had incurred, and after 3 months of living in this new living situation, they start talking and they start, they thought they were nonverbal. They're like, oh, this kid's just exploded. And then, who are you? Life begins to change when they think that something's possible that they never believed possible. And that's really what we hope to do.
And that's, the definition of a safe place right there.
Exactly.
There's the fruit of a safe place.
Yeah.
That kid is hiding.
Yep.
A small target. I'm just
Yep.
going to say a really small target.
Yeah.
And now it's safe
Yeah.
to come out.
Yeah.
Well, if you could say anything to our partners or our audience that's listening that, they can lean into, what target would you give them?
I mean, my mind's going a couple of different places. I think the first thing that I want to encourage people is a lot of times you hear stories like this, and it's really easy to disconnect yourself from that's good for them. I just live a normal world. I have my 9 to 5. I have my job. There's, I'm not called to walk and live in the streets of Oak Park or anything. But there's a world that God's called you to, and there's a life that you're called to transform your world around, and to really see your unique opportunities and your unique value in the world that you live in. Start in your own home. Like, make sure that your kids have that opportunity to grow up, because you're raising world changers. You're raising life changers. And I think that some of the people connected to your podcast are really going after that, and encourage you there. That's not a bad thing to start with. If God's like moving you to maybe partner here, and if you're in the Sacramento area, there's some great ways. We're 15 minutes down the freeway. We're not that far, but we're watching God intersect the lives of hundreds and thousands of people on a yearly basis, and we believe this story's bigger than Loren and Rachelle. And there's a lot of ways that you can connect.
And I would say, find your mission, be a part of mission, get behind mission. And I also believe that it's time for Kingdom to unite missions. And I believe that those 3 things, we're going to see some crazy acceleration. It's that, like, be able to come to the table and bring missions together and see Kingdom explode.
Are you suggesting that we team up?
Come on.
Okay. So this is nothing, if you're listening, this is nothing that they asked us to do, but I really believe that people that have supported you have enabled you to support us. And so when you give to keeping your love on, when you give to this ministry, you're actually enabling tools to be shared with organizations like ours.
And we're not the only one they share with.
No. And these are tools that cost a lot of money to develop and everything. So like partner with KYLO, partner with you guys. Like you're helping them help us. And so and then you can also help us too. I think that we have a kingdom opportunity to build something that is unlike anything that I've ever seen in operation. Let's do something that really makes an impact. And I just think God's up to something here in Sacramento.
And it's going to take billions. It's going to take billions of cash resources to pull all this off. And I don't know how we communicate that we're one, that we're one team. I don't know exactly yet how to do that, but it's true.
It is.
It's true. It's like it's not like get your piece of the pie, because there's not one pie. We live in a bakery. We just live in a bakery, and there's just so many ways that this happens. And so I think if somebody sat through these 2 podcasts and they have not written you a check yet, they need to check their pulse. I'll just say that, the City of Refuge, sac.com is, I hope it's pretty.
I hope so too. I'm going to relook at that. Because I'm kind of having visions and dreams the last couple of days.
I hope it's pretty. Because when they get there, I just hope that they are full of wonder. When they get to that site. If not,
and hospitality and invitation. Oh, can I tell you? I have a basket and rocking chairs in the front of our center. So mad because the county of Sacramento says you can't leave fruit in the basket, and it was just brought color and it felt so hospitable. Lauren's like, babe, we can get so fined. And I said, they need manners. Like, when someone comes and sits on your porch, offer them something. He says, well, you can bring it. You just can't leave the fruit. It looked so cute out there, Danny. Like, Dwayne loved it. It was rude.
Yeah. We probably need a counseling session.
Plastic fruit?
Yes. Well, again, thank you guys so much for coming. And I love our partnership. I love where it's going. I love where we're building. There's so much more going on in our hearts. And we get to connect after this, which I'm super excited about. But it is
because there's bigger dreams.
Because there's bigger dreams, and you don't know them yet because we're still dreaming.
Stay tuned. 91.
They'll be back most likely. There's more to come. But we have partners, we have donors, we have people that are sowing into us, so we can sow into people that are doing things that are phenomenal. And you're on the front lines in so many ways, and I love your heart for people. It is just inspiring to remember, I gotta love bigger, and I gotta just be willing to open my heart and say, God, what are you calling me to? So thank you so much for all of that. I love it, and I'm gonna sign off before I start crying because I love them so much. So, whole healthy families are gonna save the world.
That's
Thanks
right.
so much.
Boom.
Thanks for listening. Never miss an episode of The KYLO Show by subscribing to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or watch us on the Loving on Purpose YouTube channel. Don't forget to submit your questions and testimonies to thekyloshow.com. The KYLO Show is produced by Ali Armerding, co-produced by Ashley Beck and Anna Hill, sound engineered and edited by Taylor Silk, and show promoter Krishna Zamora. Don't forget, whole healthy families gonna save the world.